I have a hard time personally to grasp the concept of a person who is asexual, of not feeling sexual desires per se. So I'm trying to figure out what I would have done in that case, and you know what? I don't have the faintest clue. So I can only imagine what someone growing up feeling asexual, what they might have tried in order to fit in, and that's where I want to go with that.
Oh, okay. I've never really tried sexuality in order to fit in. I knew pretty strongly. I knew by looking at my friends who, even before they'd done anything sexual, very much knew that they wanted to. And I knew from that they had a desire and a type of desire that I didn't. So I've never felt like if I tried sexuality, I would somehow realize that I liked it. Because when I have experimented with it, which was later on, it was when I was in college, to the extent that I did experiment with it, it became sort of, the more it was like the things that I knew I liked doing, touching people, being affected with people, hugging people and cuddling, the more I liked it, and the more it sort of became what's traditionally thought of as sexuality. I wasn't averse to it. Some asexual people are. Some asexual people are averse to sexuality. I was just indifferent. I guess the overwhelming feeling would be awkwardness, because here I was kind of acting out this role that I didn't feel I had any reason to act out, in a context where whoever I was acting it out with was considering it really important for some reason, or considering it more important than it made sense for me to consider it. And so what I've experimented with making out with people, and with, I guess you would call it a level of petting. But it was interesting. I think it allowed me to learn more about myself, but it didn't really complicate my own image of myself.
Okay.
It's I know that it could be difficult to describe, but it's the way that some people don't like particular types of food, or some people don't like doing particular types of dance because they can't get into them. It's just an activity that doesn't make sense to me on any level to use as a way to act out the things that it's acting out.
I got another question for you. Because of your particular perspective and your asexuality, would you see our society as a sex-focused society? And if you do, what's your opinion of that?
I would see our society as a sex-focused society. I think a lot of that is positive. I think it's better to talk about sexuality than not to talk about it, because it's a really important part of a lot of people's lives. And I think that openly talking about sexuality is something that benefits asexual people as well. That being said, I think that many people rely on sexuality as the only way to do a lot of things that it's not the only way to do. I think that our society reinforces the idea that if you want to understand and experience pleasure in your life, sexuality is a vital part of that. If you want to explore and understand intimacy, sexuality is a vital part of that. If you want to achieve adulthood, sexuality is a vital part of that. And I don't think any of those things are true. I think sexuality can be a great way to do all of those things, and it should be talked about as a way to do all of those things, but we should also be acknowledging and talking about the other ways that you can express intimacy and play around with power and explore pleasure as being just as valid.
And how do you think we should go about improving that? What are some of the methods that could be used?
It's been interesting because in the asexual community, that's exactly what we've been doing. A lot of the focus of what asexual people are getting together to talk about, to me it seems, has been exploring those kind of issues of how do you do all this stuff that sex does without sex? And to me, it's a question of kind of breaking down why sex is so important. Not necessarily saying that it's bad that it's important, but when I look at sexuality, I never just see sexuality. It's about power and negotiating power and playing around with power, and power isn't a bad thing in relationships, I don't think. It's about people's desire for intimacy and people's desire for a release from whatever it is they want to be released from the rest of their lives. And whenever I see a situation that would turn a sexual person on, it's got some component of those things in there. And so in many ways it's about, I guess, the reverse of what everyone accuses Freud of doing. Everyone accuses Freud of taking a cigar and calling it sexual. Taking anything and calling it sexual. It's taking anything sexual and looking at the non-sexual components of that.
My next question for you. Mm-hmm. Being asexual, do you ever have a desire to have children? Or, have you thought about having your own children? What are your thoughts and feelings about that?
I definitely want to have kids. And I don't see any reason why that would be an issue. I think there's a lot of ways that you can have kids without having sex. And I don't know what kind of family I want to build. I don't know if I'm going to wind up in a relationship with one person. If I'm going to find a couple, maybe a sexual couple, who I form a really, really close relationship with and kind of move in with them and form a family with them. There's asexual people who've done that. If I'm going to just find a really, really close community that can help support me in raising my kid and live in that kind of a scenario, I'm open to exploring different ways that I could form a family, but I know I want kids to be a part of my life. And
given that you grew up asexual, and I'm sure this somehow fit into the dynamic with your parents, mm-hmm. What advice, if any, would you like to offer to people growing up with asexuality, whether you want to give advice to the children who are asexual or the parents who have to raise an asexual child?
First of all, I would say what we always say on asexuality.org, which is the word asexual isn't a label that you can get tested for. It's a tool. It's a word that you use to figure yourself out and communicate yourself to people. And if you think that word is useful, then use it. And if you don't think that word is useful, then don't. And if you think that word is useful for 3 years and then you realize it's not anymore, that's fine too.
All right. We got to go to break. You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and we'll be back right after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Guys, if the only breast you ever touched was in a bucket of chicken, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only thing you've licked recently has been your fingers to turn the pages of a book, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only female body part you are familiar with wears a cape, can fly, or has superpowers, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If you think the G-Spot is the name of a new club, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the words missionary conjures up images of guys in long robes, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only sensation your fingers have had are pressing the buttons on your remote control, then you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. Do you know what it means when a woman asks you up to her place for coffee? If you think that she is thirsty for caffeine, then you definitely need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. Only available at FrankTalks.com. Frank helps adult boys become men.